Just like you understand Tausch's pain that the Packers aren't playing in Detroit on Sunday.
Yeah, I do. I get that. I don't like it. It feels weird to me. I feel like I should be getting excited about something on Sunday, and I'm just not. The only thing I'm excited about is that if Baltimore wins, right? Like, that's the only thing I'm excited about is that Baltimore wins, and that's all I care about.
Why do you care so much about Baltimore winning?
I can't do the Taylor Swift Kelsey Super Bowl. I just can't do it. Lamar Jackson has to be everyone's hero. Lamar Jackson has to be the hero. You know, there's only one man that can save us, and that's Lamar Jackson. So that's where I'm going with it.
There's only one man that can save us. That's phenomenal.
That's the way I'm looking at this.
All right, so help me with this then, and then we'll get into tackle talk and everything else. We're going to skip the commercial break we normally have with you. We're going to take you right to 9:45, and then we'll deal with the clock afterward, okay? Let me ask you this, though.
Right.
Here's what I'm struggling with. I understand the disappointment part. I totally get that. I understand the opportunity that was in front of the Packers and the fact that they had the number one seed on the ropes. What I'm struggling with this discussion is that when I think of a team that I'm so disappointed that they're not in a position to advance, I think, well, because they got hosed by a bad call, or a guy made a boneheaded play like Brandon Bostic in 2014, right? But this is two guys dropped interceptions. Your defense, you fired your defensive coordinator, whose group, while playing well for much of the game, did not get it done when the chips were on the table. And your quarterback, who was awesome for a 9-game stretch, threw a horrendous interception, one of 2 interceptions he threw, one that he admitted was committing a mortal sin. Like, I felt like they got what they deserved, which sucks, but the mistakes they made cost them the opportunity they had. It wasn't like they got cheated out of being in the NFC Championship game. So help me understand your perspective.
No, I mean, you're certainly correct. It's not like they got cheated or anything like that. That was certainly not the case. Everything was self-inflicted. I look at it as that why I'm disappointed because, like, the defense, whatever happened with them, you know, if they played well, it was a huge bonus. If they did what they did and, you know, gave up that last drive or dropped 2 picks, like, there's certain things that with the Green Bay Packers defense this year, I just kind of came to roll with the punches with that. It wasn't like, oh, man, here we go again. It was like, oh, I kind of expected stuff like that to happen. But what really, to me, the whole thing that it comes to is Jordan Love kind of throwing that second pick. He hasn't shown anything of that, really, like you said, for the 9-week stretch. He's been so dialed in, so good with his decision-making that he makes a decision like that, and it's kind of watching going, like, where did that even come from? What was that? What happened? And that's kind of where I look at it as I'm just disappointed because he hasn't shown that he has that in him, you know, to make a decision like that. And I'm not saying it taints my view or anything of him. It's just That's the disappointing part because I know, like I said on the Homer Hour on Monday, he let go of that ball and literally in his mind he went, oh, bleep. Literally as it probably left his hand. So it's not that he didn't understand what he did. It's just he hasn't shown that, which makes it, like, gut-wrenching because, like, he hasn't done that, and he did it in such a big moment.
Yeah, Blue, for me and Jason and Jesse yesterday couldn't understand the fact that, you know, it's been 4 days, 5 days, but these opportunities are so hard to come by. And, yeah, Jason just went through the list of things. That's a lot of things if one thing goes different. And I don't even know if I have to ask you this because I know the answer, but when you lose in the playoffs, if somebody works you and is better, you tip your cap, and it sucks because you got close. Like your Atlanta championship game in, 16? Nobody left there thinking we were better than the Atlanta Falcons, and so you move on with your life, and it's, you know, it sucks, but it's the Seattle game. For me, 4th and 26, or the 07 championship game. We have those games where it's, and this was one of those. This wasn't the juggernaut San Francisco 49ers inflicting their will on us. We made way too many mistakes, and in a year where you could have knocked off the 1 and 2 seed and had a chance to go beat a team that you manhandled on Thanksgiving, those moments and those times, you don't get them back. And that's what Jason and Jesse didn't understand, that I know my old partner Blue will understand.
Oh, I get it. I get it a lot, because that's what I was trying to explain to Homer last night. Like, the improbable of it, of the 7 seed getting momentum, getting hot, going to beat the 2 seed
being
on the
healthy.
road, then literally having the 1 seed in the palm of their hands and then letting it go. And then, like you said, if they win that game, they go play Detroit, the 3 seed, and knocking off the 1, 2, and 3 seed all in one playoff group, and doing it and making it look pretty easy. Like, that's the way it was looking for a time in that San Francisco game, and obviously it ended the way it did. But you're right. Those opportunities they're not in abundance, right? Like, we got to the NFC Championship game myself in 2010. We got there in 2014. We got there in 2016. We got there in 2019. 2016 and 2019, we got blown out, and they were the better team, and that's life. You got to move on with it. But that 2014 one, like you said, that's the one that sticks with me forever, because it's like we had them, and we were the better team, and and X, Y, and Z should have happened, but things slip away, and it just eats at you. And that's, to me, kind of where I understand where you're coming from with this, is that's why it's disappointing, because the Green Bay Packers had the 1 seed on the ropes, and they had them, and they just let it kind of slip away. And you said it. One of those things goes right, it's a different story in the game.
I still don't think we all disagree as much as you're making it sound. Of course, in the great words of the great American...
You told me yesterday, get over it, man. It's 5 days ago. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to get over it.
I feel like you handled other losses better than this, is what I'm saying. The 2020 NFC Championship game lost when you're at home and you've got Tom Brady throwing picks was a more disheartening loss, in my opinion, than what happened in San Francisco. But no blank. It sucks when you lose and you have opportunities to win and you lose the game.
Jason, the part of this is it's such an unexpected deal. This was so unexpected, and then all of a sudden attitudes
like
and expectations changed midway through. This changed. And when it changes and it's there for you to just grab a hold of, and it's not like this is the middle of April and we're talking about the draft. I'll be over it. I'll probably be over it by Monday. But the fact that I know we should be flying to Detroit, but what I think they probably leave on Friday, probably today, maybe tomorrow. I don't know what their schedule would have been. Go up there and this is a team you know you can beat. And as Blue said, to knock off the 1, 2, and 3s, oh baby, that would be something.
As a 7 seed,
that opportunity. And Blue, this is the other thing. And some fans are saying, "Well, the future is so bright." Absolutely, it is. No question. Pella window's wide open, but to understand how lucky and how hard it is just to get back in that position year in and year out, it is not a given. It's hard.
No.
And a lot of times fans will just snap their fingers and say, nope, we'll be back. Well, it doesn't always happen like that.
No. I mean, it certainly doesn't always happen that way, the way that the team was playing as well, right? Like the way the offense was playing, the way that everyone was clicking. That doesn't happen every year. Like, sometimes you go into the playoffs, and a perfect example would be 2011 for me. Like, right? Like, we're rolling along in the season, go to Kansas City, lose to Kansas City, to break the undefeated season. Obviously they sit the starters in week 17 against Detroit. We go against the Giants, and we're just not clicking, and we lose. And, we were the best team on paper, but we got into the show or in the tournament, and we lost because we weren't playing the way we should have been playing. So it's kind of like, yeah, you may get there, you may get to the playoffs again, but you don't know if the team is playing and clicking the same way it was this year. And that's the part that people take for granted at times. Like, they just think, oh, you're in the playoffs, you should be good to go, you should be playing great. Nah, not really. Not really. That's not the way it goes. San Francisco is limping into the playoffs, right? They did not play good against us, and we should have beat them. They're taking that and bringing that against Detroit. Who knows how that's going to go, right? So it's not a given that you're going to get into the playoffs and return to that spot again.
Absolutely. All right. So, Blue, what was your reaction when you saw the news Joe Barry was relieved? I'm assuming you weren't shocked.
No, not shocked. I think it's a move that had to be made, right? I just think it was. I think LaFleur protected him quite a bit during the season and trying to keep the questions off him. I mean, obviously there were a ton of them, but with his answers, then he made that little. If I thought he should have been fired, I would have done it. It brought up more questions, and he cooled it down. And it was a matter of time before it happened. There was no way they could continue on the same path that they were on. You would imagine that some of the defensive players in the locker room had lost confidence and kind of motivation to play for him at another full season. Obviously once they get into the playoffs and everything, it's a different story, but for another full season of hearing the same thing over and over and over, I think the guys might have been over it, and I'm sure LaFleur saw that. So it doesn't really surprise me much that the move was made.
So a couple of pieces of information at this point. First, Joe Barry is interviewing with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Chicago Bears for jobs on their staffs, not for defensive coordinator. I don't believe. That's not how the news was reported by Diana Rossini. Meanwhile, okay. Diana also reports that the first interview of what I anticipate to be many for the Green Bay Packers' vacant defensive coordinator job is Brandon Staley, the former Chargers coach.
Oh boy.
That went exactly as I pictured it in my mind when I sprung that on Brian. Brian, your thoughts?
Oh, my God. Yeah, listen, I like Brandon. I think he's a great guy.
Sounds like it. You know
what? Like he was probably, when he was with the Rams, he was a really good coordinator. Right? Their defense was good. He got the head coaching gig, and it just didn't. It never worked out well. I don't know if that scheme and the way he likes to do things is going to fit what we got in Green Bay right now. I'm not sure it's the best fit. Again, I think he's a good coach, especially defensive-minded. But, I mean, the Chargers' defense was brutal. Like, really
70
brutal.
to Vegas. Gave up 70 to Vegas, right?
It's a lot. Like that. It's close, but yeah. 63.
It was bad. So
they
I
called
think
off the dogs.
It's fine to interview and bring him in and hear him out and do all, I get that's the process, but I don't think that's to be honest with you, Brandon's all ball. He is all football all the time. He is a football guy, as Tausch likes to say on that show, right? Football guy. He is a ball coach. But, I'm not sure how he and Matt will, click. I'll put it that way, if that makes sense. Matt loves football. I know he does, and the guys in the staff love football, but they're different guys. And I'm not saying everyone has to be aligned and be alike on staff to get along, but you kind of got to see eye to eye on a lot of things. I imagine if you're working with someone and they have such a high position as a defensive coordinator and things of that, you got to see eye to eye. And I'm just not totally sure Brandon and Matt will be on the same wavelength, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Blue, I honestly said on Tuesday, I think, what day did Joe get fired? Tuesday? Tuesday, I said, I bet that he's going to interview Staley because of the Rams, and I said, I hope that's not going to be the case. I'm just reading between the tea leaves with you. You feel the same way. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is. Again, I think highly of Brandon Staley. I just don't think
nice guy. You like him. Nice guy. You like him.
Yes, exactly. I just don't think this is the best fit. How about that?
So isn't Blue? Isn't
what
this...
kind of scheme would he Blue? What kind of scheme would he be running? I mean,
is that kind of what Barry
Aaron
was
Donald?
running?
Hey, go sack the quarterback. All right, Aaron. All right, you go cover. What's the scheme he'd be running if LaFleur loves him?
Well, I'll tell you this much: there is a lot of deception and disguise and scheming of that nature that I think it confused a lot of the Chargers players trying to execute it, which then allowed massive holes in the secondary because guys really didn't know what they were supposed to be doing. And that creates, obviously, as we know, giant seams in defenses when guys are out of position. They think they should be covering the flat, and they really got the deep third, and bang, the deep third's wide open. So, it's a very complex defense, and there's a lot of moving parts, and it requires a lot of veteran back-end players to do it. Like you looked at how he did it when he was out in it's that Fangio-type defense in Denver when it gets deployed really well. Really good in the secondary, as they were with Harris and Talib and all those guys. Really good in San Francisco when he had Whitner and all those cats. The defense is deployed really well, when you have the proper secondary and veteran secondary that has the capacity to understand everything and know where to go and know where to be and read offenses. If you don't have that, it's really tough. It's really tough. I think from a pass rush standpoint, we're in really good shape up front. It would work really well from the front four, front five standpoint, rushing the passer. That's really good. But he loves bringing the strong safety down in the box like he did with Derwin James a ton. We don't have that type of player to add as a fifth man or a sixth man in the box to be able to read, run, pass, and drop back into his zone and duties. But we don't really have that guy, right? So you're asking someone from our defense that we have on roster right now or we acquire or whatever it may be to play this role, and they call it the star in that defense, the star position, to do this position, and we don't have that personnel. When he puts his defense on paper and shows it to LaFleur and says, this is what I want, we don't have the guys that do it. And that's just the way it is. So you have to get someone in there defensively that can kind of mold a scheme into the personnel we have, because there's going to be personnel changes, but it's not going to be that drastic that we're adding, all-pro secondary players in the offseason. So you got to bring someone in that can mold this defense around somewhat of the personnel that we have, which is young, a little inexperienced, a little hot and cold at times, so you got to be able to cover them up with a pass rush and do things like that. And I don't think Staley's defense is the answer to that.
Yeah, they're going to have they have two safeties under contract right now.
Jason, it's so nice with somebody that has an opinion and makes predictions on it. It's so refreshing.
Yeah, he's great. I really enjoy every time Bryan joins us, and that's what makes him great.
Blue, is there somebody you like? Is there somebody you'd like Matt LaFleur to take a look at that maybe we're not thinking about?
That was the question I was about to ask.
Who I like obviously is never going to happen, because I learned this last night from not only Jason but Homer that they hate each other, would be Vrabel.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen. So then my second in line would be Wink Martindale.
What about Bill Belichick?
Bill Belichick would be great. Bill Belichick would be fantastic, but I don't see him taking a DC job anytime soon.
Okay.
I think I'd let Belichick coach this team remotely. Legit. I think I'd let him scheme it up and do it. If he wants to do it from his boat, wherever that is, out in Long Island or wherever he's at, I think I might let him do that.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a bad. He could just zoom in. He could just zoom in every week.
Let that dog call the plays.
Yeah. I like Wink Martindale because you've seen what he's done with defenses that don't have a lot, right? And our defense has more than, say, the New York Giants. And he was able to get a lot of production out of that defense. So I look at a guy like that can make a lot out of, I'm not saying a little, but with the talent that we have on defense, which isn't, bad, but it's not top 5 defense in the league. You bring in a guy like that can scheme really well, that knows his personnel, that puts his personnel in advantageous positions at all times. That's the type of guy that I see fitting really well within Green Bay.
Yep, and Matt LaFleur said nice things about Wink Martindale going into the Giants game that went beyond the typical they're well-coached type stuff, and he also did that with Ejiro Evero when they were going into the Panthers game. So those are two names that I think are worth paying attention to. Bryan, we know you got to go. Thanks for making time for us. We appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of the day.
That is Bryan Bulaga Iowa. Huge fan of Brandon Staley. Really likes him. Likes him as a guy. He's all ball. Doesn't think it would be a good fit as the defensive
Brandon
coordinator.
Staley, did he coach Bulaga out at L.A. too?
So Brandon Staley, who just was he fired after that Raiders game? Was that
Yeah,
what? Was
the
he
Raiders
fired?
game was his last game.
63, and we called off the dogs, both Mo and whatever the other dog's
and
name
Rufus. Yeah. So Brian was not coached by him. I think he was on the team, but that was the year that he played like 1 or 2 games. So he had him as his head coach for the 1 year, but then I don't know if he hung around LA after he had the season-ending injury. So I don't know how much he played for him, but he did have him as his head coach for however long he played that 21 season. So yes.
We have 2 people on this panel that are saying no thank you. I mean, he took over the play calling as the head coach, and it got markedly worse.
Yes.
Like, markedly worse. No thank you.
So he was with the Bears from 17 through 18, Broncos in 19 with Vic Fangio.
I want a Raven. I'm coming more and more to, if it's Wink Martindale, who used to be a Raven, I want a Raven on this staff.
Okay. We will delve
Don't care
further
who it
into
is.
this.
Give me a Raven. Quote the Raven. Give me a Raven.
The Raven, indeed. All right, we'll dive further into this. Thanks again to Brian for making time for us. We know we had a lot going on. More next. It's Wilde Tausch.